After the excitement of the 80s and 90s, it's finally the new millennium, year 2000, and computers didn't go crazy because it's 00. Australia officially becomes a republic. The dictator of Paraguay, who was scared of Y2K, who activated martial law, is overthrown. Michael Jordan wins the PGA golf tournament against Hall Sutton. The first iPod was released. The North Korean secret mission to Mars ends up crash landing on the planet, killing the pilot but leaving one alive, named Lee Jong-gil.
오늘의 위대한 조국의 안녕을 위해 임무 완수했습니다.
After burying the pilot, Lee Jong realized that he is the loneliest man alive, quite literally being a planet away from everyone else. Landing in the Arcadia region, which is presumably one of the better regions of Mars, remaining alive setting up a potato farm with his own fertilizer. And speaking of, the American election is finally here. Al Gore wins re-election. This is the election that solidifies the three main parties' colors, with red for Democrats because of their vision towards Mars, and blue as the opposite for Republicans, and purple representing a mix of both for reform. By suppressing the far right of the party and keeping the orthodox pro-ism of being pragmatically centrist, they're able to actually have the greatest performance of the party till this point and actually win electoral points. 2001, and, well, America became traumatized. The world was forever impacted from this. America invaded Afghanistan, and did Back to the Future predict the future? And Dale Earnhardt Sr. survives a car wreck. 2002, Walmart files for bankruptcy, which leads to Kmart becoming America's biggest general store. John Lennon performs Hey Jude at the Big Bull. Wendy's opens the first fast food franchise on the moon base of Jamestown. Sega launches an upgraded version of the SegaNet for the Dreamcast, which unknowingly will grow into a partnership with Valve, which will eventually revolutionize gaming with the Sega Steam network. Republicans propose No Child Left Behind, which gets blocked. After being delayed for a year, The Bourne Identity with Brandon Lee is released. President Gore encourages more states to adopt a system to return cans to actually pay people for recycling. 2003, Gore places massive sanctions on Iraq but ignores Republicans' calls for invasion. Michael Jordan, after losing to Tiger Woods, officially retires from sports. The first indie-funded spacecraft is launched, which revolutionizes space travel. Jonathan Henslight's Hulk 2 receives mixed to negative reviews. And Puerto Rico votes to finally become the 51st state, the first state of the new millennium and the first new state since 1959. The Beatles perform their farewell tour as a tribute to George Harrison in Red Square, Moscow, featuring Billy Preston and Harrison's son Donnie. 8 in 10 Americans now drive electric or hybrid. The Soviets allow more of their autonomous republics to have UN seats. Arnold returns not as Kyle Reese but the Terminator 3. Gay marriage is made federally legal in the United States. And after years of delay, Nigeria becomes the first country to launch a mission to Mars, followed quickly by India and by the end of the year with Europe, sponsored by Richard Branson's Virgin Group. Due to the arrest of Harvey Weinstein in 1999, the further investigation during the trial leads to Jeffrey Epstein and a lot of high-profile arrests. 2004, on Mars, Lee Jong-gil had a problem where the airlock ended up tearing and destroying his capsule. He survived but not his garden. Lee panicked and screamed and wanted to take his helmet off and end it all, but then he saw the Nigerians arrive, the first human contact in 4 years. Mars ships came with bases because every 26 months we can actually send something to Mars. Setting up ice tents. Within the lining of the tents, they stored Martian ice to cool the station, protect from radiation, and give them plenty of light so they don't have to waste on energy, which the Americans were witnessing because they had a spy in the Nigerian space program.
How much will it cost to go up and rescue him?
$400 million.
Okay, well, who's gonna die anyway?
She was then caught, which caused a massive scandal. Bad timing because it was also an election year. And oh no! All 3 candidates did well, which led to this being the first election since 1837 where the House had to pick the winner, because no one made it to 270. Which led to John McCain being elected the 43rd President of the United States, the second Vietnam veteran, He was born in the Panama Canal Zone, which makes him the first president born outside the lower 48, and he became the oldest U.S. president at 68 and would leave office at 72. Condoleezza Rice, or Connie Rice, the governor of California, became the second woman and second African-American vice president, and 46 overall. Arnold Schwarzenegger took her spot as governor of California. Former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, led the Reform Party to its best success yet.
This is Jesse the Body Ventura talking to you from the Chicago Lake Liquor Store, across from Sears in Minneapolis. Where should you turkeys go to buy your beer? Chicago Lake Liquor Store. You can get the finest in domestic beer as well as imported beer. You can drink little bottles or drink it like the body does.
Armenia and Azerbaijan declared independence. It did not go well for them. 2005, McCain took office with the McCain Doctrine, taking an active role in the campaign in Afghanistan. A reality TV show called Moon Miners about mining on the moon premieres on the Discovery Channel. October 2005, the Soviet premier passes away, being succeeded by Gennady Zhigonev, who fought off a hardline coup by the head of the KGB, Vladimir Putin. Fans of nostalgia from the 30s and her presidency in the 90s, the Shirley Temple box set was released. Which is also notable because that commercial for her that played on Cartoon Network every single day is melted in the brains of everyone my age.
Animal crackers in my soup, monkeys and rabbits loop-the-loop.
2006, China launches their moon base, and around the same time, Hunter S. Thompson's ashes are scattered on the moon. Big scandal because the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, under both Temple and McCain, while quail hunting, shot and killed the Attorney General, Harry Wilton, in the face. It was ruled an accident, but Cheney was forced to resign and sent to time. So the two cabinet positions had to get replaced, including the new Secretary of Defense, Lindsey Graham, being the first openly gay member of cabinet. Due to the Duck It's Dick scandal, this led to the Reform Party taking over in the Senate. Boris, starring Sacha Baron Cohen, is a mockumentary about a Soviet going to America. Marlon Brando's final movie, released 2 years after his death, Big Bug Man, is released to mixed reviews. Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi unite into one country, the East African Confederation. McCain gets 2 new Supreme Courts. 2007, and Lee Jong-gil becomes a national hero of North Korea for being the first man on Mars. Richard Branson, after its return, acquisitions the European ship because he paid for it. And by 2009, it gets converted into the first space hotel, with shuttles running from Earth inspired by the Space One, the Indy ship from earlier. America finally makes it to Mars after everyone else, using an inflatable base. But hey, Guam finally becomes the 52nd state, and the first state that's in a completely different hemisphere. Right behind Wyoming, it's become the least populated state in the Union. Smaller ships now trade over the moon rather than having to go via rover. Michael Collins becomes the 3rd commander of Jamestown, one of the original 3 people of Apollo 11, and eventually the supreme commander of the moon. Republicans and a minority of Reform try overturning gay marriage, which gets passed the House and Senate, but McCain vetoes it. They also try passing legislation to move the drinking age from 18 to 21, but McCain blocks it again. 2008. Heath Ledger went to the Oscars. Sony was prevented to have a monopoly over physical media, which eventually leads to HD DVD overtaking Blu-ray. Matt Damon stars in Avatar, becoming the highest-grossing movie of all time, and the first movie to premiere in space on the Jamestown. O.J. Simpson was able to get away from one court case, but not the other about armed robbery, which he'll spend the rest of his life in for. Election time already? Damn. McCain wasn't looking too great because of the Great Recession being the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression, a bunch of natural disasters, and he was super old. Jesse Ventura declined to run again due to family issues, which led to Sarah Palin, the governor of Alaska, going for reform, taking them from their greatest success of all time to jack squat. With Barack Obama becoming the 44th president and the first African-American president in American history. Howard Dean, the governor of Vermont, the 47th vice president. 2009, the Atlantis ship was launched to set up a command center on the bases on Mars, along with some Japanese drones to create the United Nations Olympus base. And these new add-ons to the bases were created with this newfangled 3D printing technology. To lead up to a total eclipse of the moon led to a massive concert, with basically whoever they can get their hands on, which ultimately led to the eclipse happening during a performance of Michael Jackson's Doesn't Matter If You're Black or White as he moonwalks on the moon. The Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, and Scientology churches realize they're more similar than they are different, so have a joint venture in the funding colonization of the moon and Mars. Former President Gary Hart visits North Korea, being the first U.S. president to do so, to negotiate the release of some Americans.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
2010. Transformers anime is renewed for 3 more seasons and a TV finale movie. The U.S. withdraws from Afghanistan. The UK elects for the first time, coalition government under Labour and the Liberal Dems. Richard Branson and the Virgin Group run into some hot water when their soda, Virgin Cola, becomes the official soft drink of the terrorist group Boko Haram. Bronson denounces them, but he also mistakenly calls Boko Haram Boko Raton. With Obama's 2 new Supreme Courts, they blocked Citizens United. And he went from a supermajority in both chambers to losing both the Senate and the House. 2011, and the Olympus base is open to all UN members, the Senate researchers, minors, and family, which eventually leads to a massive Mars craze, boosted by Lee Jong-il's stories being published as The Martian, eventually being turned into a movie, starring Chinese Jackie Chan as Korean Lee Jong. Dehydrated and rehydrated food becomes popular. The Arab Spring ignited to overthrow the authoritarian regimes of the Arab world. A lot of it didn't really turn out well, but in Tunisia, Iraq, Iran, and Saudi Arabia it did. Brandon Lee returns to comic films not as the Crow, but to the MCU as Hawkeye. The first of the now standard solar-powered planes is launched. In the US, thanks to the support of Howard Dean, the Progressive Caucus, and some members of Reform even, the Constitution is changed to lower the age minimum from 35 down to 21 and an age maximum of 75, with a compromised grandfather clause that kept everyone that was currently still in government around. Kim Jong-nam inherits North Korea. 2012. Donald Glover becomes the Amazing Spider-Man. A motion capture remake of Yellow Submarine is produced. It's definitely not for everybody, and it's a bit weird, but the original Beatles thought it was alright. The moon's civilian population expands. The Dark Knight trilogy ends with Anarchy in the City, starring David Tennant as the Riddler. Chai Sing-wen becomes the first woman elected in China and the first Chinese president born in Taiwan. Obama wins re-election. Reformist Kim Jong-nam has a disputed succession with his brother Kim Jong-un, which is definitely not weird in a communist regime and not a monarchy. And Un tried escaping to the Soviets, trying to get support, but he was caught and killed. 2013. Protesting in Kiev erupts when Russia tries remandating Russian subjects in schools, which turns violent. Due to the growth of the base on Mars, this led to the first humans being born on Mars, Saito Martha from Japan, and 4 hours later, the Native American Marvin Padiacker is born. 3D printers go public. Tron Uprisings renewed for 2 more seasons. The East African Confederation essentially puppets Somalia, allowing 2 breakaways, Somaliland and Puntland. Ukraine declares independence, which is an on-again, off-again war. The theocratic state of Iran is overthrown by a pro-Soviet communist regime. The 2 leaders of the 2 Koreas meet for the first time. 2014, and it's finally decided that Korea, after so many years, to unite, with Kim Jong-nam being the vice president and kind of overseer of the North's transition. Cyprus also unites this year. Well, North and South Sudan divorce, and Scotland votes to leave the UK. Nicola Sturgeon becomes the first president of Scotland, but they still recognize Queen Elizabeth till 2023. Due to the Arab Spring and UN negotiation, Israel and Palestine are divided between 2-state solution and a UN mandate of an independent Jerusalem. Due to the growth of independent spacecraft development, this leads to the foundation of the National Association for Space Car Racing, hosted by Dale Earnhardt Sr. 2015. Making Fiends renewed for a 7th and final season. The Soviets keep tossing anything at Venus to see if it dissolves or not. Saudi Arabia reorganizes into the Commonwealth of Arabia. Nigeria introduces a new plasma engine. Converting argon into fuel, it's also able to eliminate the need for the 26-month window of Mars. Lee Jong-il is elected as the first Supreme Commander of Mars. He also, due to his time with the Nigerians, converted to Islam. Microsoft, SpaceX, and BYD from North America, Africa, and China unite as one major company known as Blue Sun. 2016. Brazil experiments of underground bases on the moon called the Randy. After several delays, casting mix-ups, and connecting to the Dark Knight series, Justice League Mortal, starring Tom Hardy as Bane, creating the Legion and exploiting the League, is released. Kurt Cobain officially retires from music, with his final album being Concrete and Gold. Dave Grohl ends up taking over the band afterwards. EAC helped stabilize and puppet South Sudan. The Soviets and China were the first countries to install missile defense systems on the moon, which ended up being desperately needed because 2 NASCAR racers in space crashed into each other and nearly clashed into the moon bases until the missiles destroyed the vehicles before they collided. Stem cell research has increased. Theresa May was elected the second woman prime minister in the UK and completely ruled out the idea of leaving the EU. The French left wing unites into the new Popular Front and elects Emmanuel Macron. And after leading the Reform Party to its greatest success, Jesse Ventura decided it was time for his return for the next election. Announcing it on a podcast, and we have our candidates, bunch of old guys.
New from the Reform Party. It's the new Jesse Ventura action figure. You can make Jesse battle special interest groups
I don't want your stupid money.
and party politics.
We politicians have powers the average man can't comprehend.
You can also make Jesse lower taxes, improve public education, and fight for the things Minnesotans really care about.
This bill wastes taxpayer money. Retract it.
Don't waste your vote on politics as usual. Vote Reform Party candidate Jesse Ventura for governor.
And Ventura also did very well. No one made it to 27. There was a bit of a scandal of Guam because an island-wide power outage, and they took so long to count, it took an additional 4 weeks. But it didn't super matter because it became another election that was sent to the House, and Jesse Ventura won, becoming the first president not of a Democratic or Republican party since before the Civil War, and there was a big joke about how now he finally shaved that he won. The former wrestler turned actor turned governor of Minnesota. Ventura as the 44th president, the first one born in Minnesota, and the first openly atheist U.S. president being sworn in on a copy of the Constitution. Carly Fiorina became the third female vice president. 2017. The plasma thrower is invented to spray liquid hot plasma on your enemies. Ventura changed the U.S. motto from In God We Trust back to Among Many, One. Spent greatly on stem cell research and funded public non-car transportation. Robots enter the workforce on large scale. After the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, Ventura completely denounced their actions and saying any member of Congress that supported them should resign, which led to 15 resignations in the House, Senate, and even 2 governors. 2018, Republicans tried banning trans people from the military and repealing Obamacare, but Ventura blocked it. Reform tried making marijuana legal federally, but Republicans blocked it.
20-some years ago, I tried to legalize cannabis marijuana. I lit the match. Well, the match simmered for 20 years and finally became a flame.
But he was able to pass ranked choice voting to make elections fairer. With his 3 Supreme Court justices, the moon colonies were united under a supreme commander by the UN. 2019, John Lennon passes away in his sleep at the age of 79. Michael Jackson throws out one of his hips and officially retires from dancing at 58. Due to stem cell funding, the US and China are able to cure type 1 diabetes and treat type 2. Jeremy Hunt beats Theresa May in a leadership election, and then loses the prime ministership in that year's election to Joe Swinson of the Liberal Democrats. Canada won their own John McCain with Erin O'Toole. The first woman Supreme Commander of the Moon is elected. Large-scale asteroid mining becomes a thing. And the Democratic Republic of Iran collapses into a constitutional monarchy with Reza Pahlavi II. Due to the Soviet team incompetence, the Wagner Group coups the government. It is not a good thing that a mercenary group takes over a government, collapsing the Soviet Union into a massive civil war. 2020, Ventura supports early lockdowns and vaccine mandates and stimulus checks to civilians, which he wanted to do at the beginning of his term, but Republicans blocked it, which selfish assholes in the Republican Party and even the Reform Party hate, and rally behind vaccine skeptic RFK Jr. Ventura eventually declined to run again, seeing that America needed new blood to lead it, so Carly became the front-runner with Tulsi Gabbard, and the Democrats appointed Amy Klobuchar. No matter what RFK did, this was an election that no matter what, a woman's going to be both president and vice president. And due to ranked choice voting, Amy Klobuchar wins, becoming the 45th president, the second from Minnesota, and the second woman to become president. And with 49th Vice President Val Demings, this is the first time in American history we had both a female president and vice president at the same time. 2021. The Mars colonies are starting to feel very isolated, away from everyone and relying on Blue Sun to do their everything, especially after they start constructing underground habitation centers and dumping excess dirt onto Mars's moons, Phobos and Deimos, with Blue Sun introducing robots to do more of the manual labor. This led to unemployment on Mars. Most of the world kind of expected Alexander Lukashenko to be the winner of the Soviet Civil War, until it was revealed that he was recruiting children as young as 6 into the army, and using the plasma thrower, which is kind of a war crime, which really drove the international community to fund his opposition. Even the Eastern Bloc stopped sending aid, with Czechoslovakia officially breaking from the Soviets and joining the EU. 2022. The Republican Party officially crumbles over vaccines, with RFK Jr.'s People's Party more skeptical and conservative, and Kevin McCarthy's Rational Party being less extreme. President of the East African Confederation, Justin Nsingimba, welcomes the Democratic Republic of the Congo into the fold, expanding the EAC to not just be in East Africa, and actually tapping into the resources of the Congo and quickly becoming one of the great superpowers of industry. NASA launches a drone to Saturn's moon of Titan to find life. Macron fell into frustration with political deadlock and even in his own party, so he eventually resigned, and the new Popular Front appointed Gabriel Attal, becoming the youngest French president at 33 and the first openly gay one. On Titan, early stages of methane-based life is discovered in the seas of Titan, and even some of which are trying to burrow through the ice. Konstantin Sedniko signs a white peace with the democratic forces in Russia, allowing for the Far East to be independent. Bougainville also becomes independent. Blue Sun, after agreeing on a new logo, starts construction of a generation ship to launch into deep space to go to the Alpha Centauri system. The ship is constructed by robots in space, but as well as some human help. Through gene modding, they create the vacuum morph. By mixing human frog and water bear DNA, they can survive in deep space, as well as their 4 lungs and ability to photosynthesize, being able to swim through space and propelling themselves via farts. Their quick aging, tough exterior, and only needing sunlight proved to be more effective than using just humans or even the cost of building robots. They were never designed to have kids, but nature always finds a way, so they breed like birds, and communally raise their little avocado children on asteroids, until they achieve adulthood by 5 and old age by 35. A group of vacuumorphs is a chat, and they communicate to each other through sign language and rubbing their whiskers that used to be their eyelashes together. And after they finish the construction of the Blue Sun arc in 2027, they found new life living in chats amongst the asteroid belt, preventing new asteroids from colliding with habitated planets. Most of humanity thought they were fucking disgusting, and a perversion of humanity. But scientists thought this was an excellent step into fixing humanity's problems. 2023. A massive war in West Africa erupts between a pro-democracy faction led by Nigeria and a military faction led by Niger. America achieves Medicare for all with a public option. Due to isolation on the moon together, the Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, and Scientology churches united into the Celestial Fellowship, revering astronauts such as the Apollo 11 crew as saints, even funding a recreation of the Apollo 11 site, which became a holy site for the Celestial Fellowship as well as a big tourist trap to non-practicers. They believe in the Mormon ideas of Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mothers, procreate to create the souls of everyone. Jesus is separate from Elohim or Heavenly Father, and Jesus is always referred to as Saint Jose in the Celestial Fellowship. The Jehovah's Witness idea that he was crucified on an upright stake rather than a cross. Lucifer is referred to by the Scientology name of Xenu. And Xenu, using ships that look like DC-8s and volcanoes, created the Veil of Forgetfulness to cause people's souls to forget about their times with Heavenly Father when they get to Earth. With enough praying to the true faith and enough money, they could possibly ascend to godhoods themselves in their own planets and their own universes. Male-dominated polygamy is also encouraged. And what the hell is that thing they found in Brazil? And speak about faiths, Baha'ism becomes the predominant faith on Mars, as well as a sort of offshoot known as Manichaeism. The Satanic Temple starts outpacing Christianity within the youth on Earth due to a rejection of the mainstream church and its pragmatic beliefs, as well as neo-paganism about Norse and especially Hellenism. 2024, and the EU president from Luxembourg encourages more federalization. A former Disney star founds Northwood Space to compete with Blue Sun and funds blimp expeditions to Venus. And we think we might have found something out there. Never mind, it's just a bunch of whales. The Lunar Power Armor is introduced for both defense and mining on the moon. 2025. The Blue Sun Arc ship is completed ahead of schedule. A ticket costs about an arm and a leg even to the most wealthy of the 1%. If you didn't already get a ticket during construction or happen to be a high-ranking employee at Blue Sun. But by the end of the year, they're sent 4.3 light years away to the Alpha Centauri system. It will not get there quick, but the Arc ship was designed to be a generational ship, the furthest humanity's ever gotten. There's potentially 2 or 3 inhabitable planets out there. One they're most focused on is a moon of the gas giant Prometheus that they name Pandora. While on Earth, the first successful human cloning happens in Europe. The clone was purposely modified to have bright orange eyes and a barcode on the back of his neck to ensure no confusion in the future, which will become the new standard for cloning. DC, the areas around the Capitol building and stuff, become their own federal district, while the rest of the territory becomes the state of Douglas. Despite a divided field, Amy Klobuchar narrowly loses re-election, with reformed Nikki Haley becoming the 46th president, the first Asian American to do so, the second from South Carolina after Andrew Jackson, the third woman, and the first religious but not Christian president. She is Sikh. Former Republican, now Reform candidate Doug Burgum became the 50th vice president. 2026, in Venezuela. The president has a lovely day. Boris Nemtsov achieves victory in the Soviet Civil War and declares the Russian Republic. The U.S. Virgin Islands becomes the 54th state and becomes a massive tax haven with lots of gambling. The space programs make Jupiter's moons of Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto very important, using giant space heaters to heat up the moon of Europa to harvest ice and water so it can go to Mars to develop its atmosphere. 2027, a floating space station known as Aphrodite's is established on Venus. American Samoa finally gets granted citizenship despite being a U.S. territory since World War II. Due to inaction, Democrats continuously failed, so a breakaway faction known as the Progressive Party establishes itself. which becomes super successful next election with Ro Khan being elected the next US president. American Samoa becomes the 55th state. The US ship meant for the moon Callisto overshoots a little and gets sucked into Jupiter and everyone dies. The European Union officially federalizes. Cars with the ability to hover due to magnets officially are rentable in San Francisco. The UN passes hydro-collecting to both use as energy and also send to Mars, while also trying to combat the rising seas on Earth. While Mars is slowly developing and has a bright future ahead of it. But let me know what you thought about this timeline in the comments below, as well as hitting like and subscribe.